Hey, what's up, guys? How's it going? Today we're going to go over kind of an introduction of perspective. And perspective is kind of one of those things that a lot of people don't really like to do, I noticed, including myself often. You know what I mean? Not so much now, but usually before. Perspective is, I guess, I'm trying to think of like what turns so many people off to it. And I think it's because it seems so hard and technical that if you're like an artist that just loves to draw, you're not a very technical person, you just kind of shy away from it. You're just like, oh, that's something else. That's like, there's like a whole thing that I have to learn rules and more rules. And, we already kind of, even though we're already learning rules like anatomy and things like that, it just doesn't seem, it seems a little bit more strict and restricting, like a math issue. But I'm going to show you that it's really not a big deal. Perspective, almost every single drawing you do will have some kind of perspective in it. You know what I mean? Like, that's pretty much it. So let's kind of go over some basics when we're talking about perspective, and let's get into that. First thing I'm going to talk to you about is almost everything I've learned from perspective has been from Marshall Vandross, I believe. That's how you pronounce it, or Vandross. You go to his website, it's draw123.com, and his perspective DVDs are friggin' amazing. That's where I learned most of everything I know about perspective, and he teaches it in like an amazing way. So what I'm going to say here is just kind of what I know. It's my interpretation of various other sources. But I would say that's I have to give credit where credit's due. That's where I learned most of it. So let's kind of get into it. When we're talking about perspective, think about a couple of terms. You know what I mean? There is, like, for example, a right angle. I'm sure you know what a right angle is, right? If you don't, basically it's like a corner. It's something that's totally 90 degrees. You know what I mean? Like 90 degrees. That is a right angle. 90 degrees. That's the first term. Just kind of remember these things because they do come in useful. Right angle. There's parallel. You know what I mean? Parallel lines, meaning like an equal sign, parallel, and they're just gonna go on forever. You know what I mean? They'll never touch at all. They're not gonna touch. Then there's an oblique angle. An oblique angle basically is kind of anything that is not 90 degrees. So like this would be like an oblique angle right here. See? Like this. That's 90 degrees. It's like, I don't know, 80 degrees or something, right? Like 81, anything over here, you know what I mean? That's oblique. Anything not 90 degrees is an oblique angle. Or it's oblique to it, Things can be oblique to each other, you know what I mean? Let's say there's like a line right here, and there's like another line over here. That line is oblique to this line. You know what I mean? Or oblique to that square. This line is oblique to that square. It's not 90 degrees to that square. You know what I mean? That would be right angle to that square. It's easy, right? So far? So far easy? Okay. Then there's obtuse. Obtuse angle is anything bigger than 90 degrees. So that's these would be obtuse, both of those. Over here. Let's put like an O or something. Obtuse. And then there's an acute angle. Anything smaller, and it seems like math, right? But don't worry. Anything smaller would be an acute angle. Acute angle. Acute angle. Easy so far? So let's go over that really quick. A right angle is a 90-degree angle. You know what I mean? Like 90 degrees, meaning like if it's a full circle, it's 360, right? Full circle is 360 degrees. Half of that circle is about 180, right? 180 degrees is half a circle. And then so half of that is 90. So 90 degrees is a right angle. And then An obtuse angle is bigger than 90 degrees. An acute angle is anything more closed, like Pac-Man's mouth or something. It's closer, that's an acute angle. It's smaller than 90 degrees. And then either one of those, anything, is an obtuse angle. Anything that is just anything other than right angle. Anything other than 90 degrees. Just remember that stuff, and you're going to be better for it. You know what I mean? Let's kind of keep going. Like on the terms, there's intersection. So let's say those lines kind of shift a little bit. They're going to intersect, right? Let's say they intersect. That's literally where they cross. That's an intersection. Cool. There's a tangent. A tangent is something I've even mentioned before on this channel, and we use a lot in drawing, by the way, a lot. Like you try to avoid tangents, or you kind of make them, to kind of create like a focal point. So a tangent would be when a curve touches a line. So let's just say you have a line right here, and you have like a curve. And that touches, this is a tangent right here. You can do that kind of with I guess with right angles as well, you know what I mean? But usually it's with this intersection, you know what I mean? When something kind of touches a line. Anything kind of touches a line. Right angle could touch that line as well. I think another way people define it is an intersection of more than, intersection of 3 points, I think. I've heard it described that way, This kind of really closes the gap for me, though, to remember that. Like a curve or something touching a line like that. Just anything touching a line. That's a tangent. So those are the terms, you know what I mean? It's a lot of really good terms to remember. And so now what I really want to go over is I want to go over the actual kind of the things we're going to be talking about. I think they call it the kind of ideas within perspective. I'm going to put that aside. Kind of like what we're really going to go over in the next few videos. So, let me mark my page here so I don't go off it. So, a few things to remember. You remember kind of the laws, these kind of different laws, within perspective. So, for the first law would be, it's simple. When something is further away from you, it's smaller. And that's it. You know what I mean? So, like when a bird flies away from you, it gets smaller and smaller, right? I forget what this is called. I think it's called, they say it, I think it's called diminution or something. Diminution. But basically, the first law is things get smaller as they go away. If you understand these things just kind of intuitively, it makes everything more, it makes everything easier, you know what I mean? And a lot of this is kind of like obviously common sense, which is a lot of things, like, well, duh, I know that. Well, now you're going to remember it. But you remember that in perspective, the further away, something gets smaller as it goes far away. That's it. Easy, right? That's the first law, really. Then there's the law of kind of convergence. Convergence meaning eventually every line that's not parallel is gonna, basically that's where things converge eventually. For example, if you have a road or something like that, you have two lines like this, the sides of the road. Eventually, within the image, they're gonna touch. You know what I mean? They're gonna converge onto each other. Unless they're totally parallel. You know what I mean? No matter what. If you have two lines over here, just kind of slightly off, one way or the other, they're gonna converge. You know what I mean? Same thing here. If it's the opposite or whatever, oh no, opposite. Why do I keep drawing a line like that? If it's the opposite, they're gonna converge eventually. Anything that's not parallel is eventually gonna converge. That's convergence. And then there's foreshortening, which kind of relates to this smaller as it gets away kind of thing. And, foreshortening is the one we've talked about many, many times. So that kind of shows stuff like, what's something? Like when you have a cylinder, right? Is that a circle or is that like a pipe? You know, like if we're looking just right down a pipe or something, you can't really tell, right? Unless you kind of, if we're looking at it right up in its face, you know, you really can't tell. But the way you tell, you know, like you kind of like, if you kind of go to the side a little bit, you know what I mean? You'll see, you know, like kind of pipe, you know, you'll kind of see it shoot back a little bit. Do you know what I'm saying? If you look at it from the right angle. And that kind of, you know, you have to foreshorten it because it gets short. And maybe in reality, it looks like, let's say it looks like this, you know? Like if you just look at it from the side. If you look at it right from the side, it's like a tube. So as you turn it, and I've talked about this many times, so as you turn it, things get just shorter and more compressed, you know, as it's facing us. That would be the kind of law of foreshortening. Then there's overlapping, which I've talked about many, many times. So let's say you take these two things right here. Let's say you take these two. Like, let me move this a little bit. Let's say you take these two right here, this red one and this blue one. How do you know which one is bigger? You know? They could be, you kind of have to overlap. So for example, let's say you do this. So now you know this blue one comes in front of the other one. But what if it also does, you know what I'm going to do next? Let's say it does that, then you know that it's just smaller, but it comes in front of it. You know what I mean? It's just kind of where they're placed. Hopefully you remember these. You know, just really commit these things to memory. If you're not memorizing them, I think I'm going to pretty easily. Just kind of rewatch the video. You know what I mean? Until this is like committed to memory, you'll know it. You know what I mean? There's one more. There's aerial perspective, and that's more like in painting. You know what I mean? And you know, like when you have like a train or something like that. Let's say you have a train. And it goes super far back, let's say, like in a painting or something. Oftentimes the back of the train is like, let's say it's like, I don't know, there's atmosphere that makes it lighter back here. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, so I can't really do this with pencils so much. But let's just say this is dark or something. It's a really dark, vibrant color. As it goes back, the atmosphere, just the natural atmosphere, kind of makes it lighter. Do you know what I'm saying? Like it makes it less potent, you know? Everything, the hue and the saturation goes down as it goes back into space. I know you've seen that. You see it with clouds all the time. You know what I mean? Like sometimes it's really blue and bright, the ones up close, and the ones back there are kind of faded-ish because of the atmosphere, and it shows that they're kind of really far away. Do you know what I'm saying? That's like a big, kind of big thing. That's aerial. That's aerial perspective. But yeah, those are the general terms. If you didn't memorize them, I would actually really encourage you to go back and you know, check it. You know, just go back, rewatch the video. Maybe like just try to memorize the terms. I found these terms kind of come up a lot. You know, like the right angle, the parallel lines, that kind of stuff, that comes up so much. You know what I mean? You just want that stuff already in your head, and it'll make it so easy. And honestly, perspective is so much easier than you think it is. You know what I mean? It is way easier than you think it is. I don't know why people are so scared of it. It's, you know what I mean? You know, I guess you're used to like drawing characters and things that are organic and fleshy and things that you can kind of noodle around with. You know what I mean? So I guess something that's like hard set, you know what I mean? Like a background, you know? Everybody wants to do backgrounds. This is the beginning of doing the background. Because I see that on DeviantArt all the time. I see people that really have no clue how to use perspective. Like their characters are good, and I guess there's a little bit of perspective within them, but then you look at their backgrounds, and I'm like, whoa, their perspective is way off. Like it's like kindergarten level off. So don't let that be a gap within your kind of training. You know what I mean? You really don't want that to be a glaring gap. And that's a lot of people's glaring gap. That's my weakest point too. You know what I mean? But I have it like kind of under control. I'm alright at it. You know, you want to be, you know, sufficient at it. You know what I mean? Like I'm sufficient at it. I can do it. It's just I don't do it as much. So if you want you want at least a proficient level of that. So anyways, this is the very first one. This is just an intro into kind of the ideas of perspective, a few terminologies, and into the laws of perspective. Next one, I'm going to probably get into one-point perspective, and then kind of get more and more and more advanced after that. So we're going to go over that pretty soon. So thanks a lot, guys, for watching, and share this video if you can. I'll talk to you later.